All right, guys, we're starting a bit early today. Let's get everything settled up. I think everything's working fine. My sunglasses are slowly transitioning. I was just outside. We took off last Monday because it was a holiday and basically just took a day off, is what it comes right down to with us working. We've been busy trying to make up for the time off for the COVID stuff. So it is, so we basically just took a day off. So it was all right. Look at that. I'm making sure Robin's answering a lot of questions. Am I sounding all right? You're welcome, Matt. So anyway, we did a lot of since that time frame, since before it and after it, we did a lot of fittings, and it's really been kind of unique, and some builds, right? That have been it's proof positive that not everybody's created equal, and we have built stuff just out the door today. As a matter of fact, was for a young lady, a high school golfer whose 5-iron was 36 and a half inches long, which is about an inch shorter than or a half inch shorter than what would be lady standard, right? But she swings harder, has a very, very good delivery to the ball, and needed men's shafts in them. And once we fit them, she virtually gained about, I'm going to say 20 to 25 yards. So yeah, they were really cool. And so we're looking at her game, and with some ill-fitted ladies clubs, she was being in the mid to upper 40s, mid 40s. So I fully suspect that we're going to see probably 40s out of her, which is going to make her competitive when she gets stronger with one more year to go. Into the college ranks. So that's the level of what custom fitted clubs could do for you. And so that was one. The other end of the spectrum is that we're building a set for a guy from Rhode Island that we've worked with before, and he's 7 foot 1 inches tall. And that in itself brings up a.
Tell him about Matt wants to know about the grips.
Okay.
The roos.
Take her out. So sorry about that. I was getting instructions from Mrs. McGough.
Oh, oops. You're on camera.
Yes, I am. Imagine that, bonehead. And anyway, the man has a very aggressive transition, very aggressive swing, and they fit him into X-Flex shafts, and they said, well, you need to hard step them. Well, when you hard step, that shortens the club a little bit. And the last thing this guy needs is getting his club shorter. And we hunted and searched around and figured out that and he was already an X-Flex, so where do you find that's more stiff? Well, we found a Tour X, and the Tour X is more stiff, a little harder profile, which is really exactly what we were looking for. And at that particular one, we can actually soft step back into where he needed to be, and he gets to have his length without extending, and it's all good. So, I mean, it's right there, right? It is right there. And those are the extreme differences on just in club length alone. Now, just as Matt was alluding to, was some grips that I had posted on Twitter, and they are called the Grip Master, right? The Grip Master. And these are kangaroo leather grips, right? And not only that, but they're tanned or stained into a mahogany type color. They're really quite nice looking. And then they have a what's called a protraction stuff put into them, and they're extraordinarily sticky. And that's the thing, and they're supposed to last quite a bit of time. Now, they're quite pricey, but if they do what they say they're going to do, they should be okay. And a gentleman from South Carolina wanted those, and we put those on a set of Maltby clubs. And the Maltby clubs, those TS1s, were really, it was kind of neat to see how sleek the designs have become from Maltby. Everything of the hybrid, the TS1, which is a forged, basically you can call it a direct competitor to the TaylorMade 790s. It's kind of a goo-filled club and very clean looking, and all the way up into the driver and the new KE Tours. Now, honestly, they're all right-handed, so I can't tell you how they're going to perform. We're going to have to wait and see what David from South Carolina says, and then we'll figure out what it is that we have. But in knowing what GolfWorks has put out in the past, it ought to feel pretty good and ought to perform just as good as anything else. So good for them, good for us, right? And those are the types of grips, to the point now that we've even, you're seeing where Golf Pride is starting to throw out more colors, right? And that's in order to promote more of the MCC line. That's that multi-compound where it's a corded in the back and a little more different colors in the front. Basically like that, right? Corded, different colors, and now they're having like college colors. Well, now what you're seeing is from Jumbo Max and the no taper, right? The MCC 4 Pluses, the Win LTs, those types of shit. Well, Jumbo Max has jumped right into it, and they have what's called the straight. That's what it says right up in here, the straight grip. Now, very cool looking grip, very, very tacky, and it also has the ability to put in those Arcos chips, or the chips that go into the back of the grip. This one has that, and it's not too extra. I mean, it's a bigger grip. I mean, this thing is slightly larger than Jumbo. Okay, that's Jumbo Max's. That's their that's the way that they work. And this is the medium grip, and I put it in the middle of my hand. You can see where that's at. So it's fairly large, but it's a no taper. And it's for those, it's really good for the guys that do a 10-finger grip. But for those guys that have really large paws, they can do that. So there's, it's almost like we've been shot out of a cannon with new stuff. And it's just really been cool here as of late. Some of the stuff we've come out here. Last week we got to talk to Victor about the golf shafts, and there's some really good creativity there. But this week, I decided we can talk a little bit about wedges, okay? Wedges, I have to believe that this year that the wedge product line is probably as strong as it's ever been, and from multiple companies, right? And that's where we're going to talk about. So we'll start out here. We're going to talk about this, and then we'll get to a couple of questions. So we'll just start with Mizuno. I did the video on it. You saw that, and we have the JPX, and then we have the T20 cast forged, and they have two different. All right, when we talk about wedges, the couple of things that we really need to worry about is sole grinds, right? The sole grind, and that's basically a couple of things. How much heel, how much toe relief that it has, how much back end relief it'll have, all right, and then how much bounce. And you see how much different these are. Now, they're both 10 degrees, but they just do different, and they have different applications, or for different golfers for that matter. And that's really what it's about. Now, it's not to say that they're the only ones out there. I have to tell you that Wilson, right, this is their new offering, and this is a forged model. And listen, forged, right? Everybody thinks that all these wedges out there are forged, and they're not, right? Unless it says it, it's not, right? And so the Vokies of the world, the Clevelands of the world, even the Callaways of the world, not forged. Now, some of them are softer metals than others to make them feel like they are. Some of them are milled in certain areas to make them feel like they are, but they're not. All right. So if you're looking for true forged, you better look for the word that's on it. All right. But into the Wilson, this one is what they've called tour approved. And the only reason why they say it's tour approved is brand new, and they really haven't played golf, so they can't say tour proven yet. And then they have the high toe. All right, everybody's got a high toe. Seems to be quite the popular model because you see all this real estate that you can hit into. And if you look right about here is, now not all of them, obviously, there's some in here, but that is where most of them are at. And if I show you another high toe, and you can see this is where they're mostly being hit as well. And this is the one that's getting most of the attention. All right, the Phil Mickelson grind. And now, of course, if you compare the two, let's see if I can do this better for you. If you compare the two, definitely two different types of sole interactions, right? And that's what's going to separate them right there. Give me a minute. Okay. So there's just all these different varieties that are out there. Now go back to this one. This is probably one of the most accurate. For some reason, I can't hit it further, can't hit it shorter. I hit in a really good pattern. This one right now is one of my favorites because it's very utilitarian. If I had to pick another one, I am totally digging on this guy because of its workability and its ability to get the ball up in the air. But they all have different applications for different people, different environments. So if you've got, yeah, Dave, and I mean, and the ping wedges, right? The ping glide, it's getting a lot of love as well. So there's all these wedges that are out there. And as long as so let's take it, here's how we're picking. We're picking one, we're based on what's working for you in the irons, okay? So if you are hitting a standard set, a standard weight, the 120 gram wedge or one iron set, and because we're going to build off the irons, right? We want it slightly heavier or either on par with or slightly heavier than your iron set. Now, if you have a 95 gram shaft in there, they have 105 and 115 gram wedge shafts. Your selection is going to be small, but the weight and the way that you get into it might be just exactly what you're looking at. To the point, that's what you're going to see in a lot of those. They got the dynamic gold 115s. Modus has got a 115 wedge shaft and a 105. Now, there's so much out there that we're missing on short game, which is really what we need. And no, Matt, they're not. And then once you got the links and the lies, and the lie angle is paramount when it comes to a wedge because you want your turf interaction to be smooth, right? Now, once you get all that, then it's where you're playing and how you play. So are you a digger, a guy that takes a big chunk of dirt, or are you a picker that tries to get it clean? Because pickers probably won't like a very wide sole. Diggers probably could use a wider sole, right? Or even more bounce, right? Which brings the next one, bounce, right? Bounce is your friend. You can't be afraid to use a little bit of extra bounce. Now, in tighter conditions, lower bounce would be more preferred. In fluffier conditions, maybe more bounce, right? But don't be, these guys looking for 6 degrees of bounce in a wedge, unless you're playing on the Sahara Desert when it's hard as a rock or off of cement, then maybe. But as a whole, even the pros are playing something in the realm of 10 and bigger, and these guys are playing off the most manicured stuff that we've ever seen. So there you go, right? So those are some things to work about. Then the last bit is the heel and toe grind, right? Everybody's like, the heel and toe grind is all about the heel and toe grind right here, or right here. It's all about whether you want to open it or not. Well, yeah, but there's also the heel and toe grind is if you got a hilly lie that's toe down, or even an upward lie that's toe up. If you had a standard bounce and you're on these very hilly conditions, chances are the toe or the heel could dig in. Where if you had heel relief or toe relief, you can get through it a little bit smoother and get there. Of course, none of those shots are what we call a premium condition. However, those are the things in the places that you typically play where you could take advantage of all these different styles. Right? All these different styles. And there's one out there for somebody, but the wedges around here, in this era are just they're pretty good right now. I have to admit they're really pretty good. And the last one, I'm going to throw out a little love to Eric at New Level. He's got one out here. This is his latest one that he threw out. And again, it has its own heel and toe relief as well. And it's also got weight ports. All right. Each one of these things you can adjust the weights on and order how you're going to get it through. This is really heavy when it's at its maximum. So everybody's got their thing out there. So that's what that's where we want to, I just want to tell you. Then the last bit is the grip, right? Get a grip that's very comfortable for you. Get a grip that, that you can rely on. And as we had a discussion with my last fitting that we had in here is using align grips. Now, if you're what I call point, click, and chip, which is just a guy that sets it down, hits it, and lets all the wedges work in the same fashion, there's no opening or no nothing, then the align grip would be just fine. In fact, it would align you very well. However, if you're an artistic golfer where, I'm going to open it up here, I'm going to close it down here, I'm going to do all these different positions, then yeah, you're not going to want that, because then that thing's going to be hitting you in the hand in a place that's going to be foreign, and it's probably not going to like it. And so stay away from that. Go into something else, maybe something that you don't have to squeeze on so much. So that's where we are looking. Okay. So that's my little hype on wedges. I'm really happy about the fact that we have these wedges. And again, that I've learned a little something in, when I built mine, I was forced into having a 50-degree or a 52-degree wedge. And I really am more of a fan of having it part of the clan. I've said it time and time again. But I got to say that this thing's working pretty good. Now it's a shorter club and you can get to the middle of the face, but it's working way better than I ever thought it was. And that's really the pleasantry of it, right? That's the pleasantry of it. Let me put these away. Okay. So that's where it's been for me. The fitting has been great. The builds have been extraordinarily different. Sent one to Seattle that had some different types of shafts in it, and they just turned out really, really good. If you guys saw, there was the Wilson D7 forged, and they had those ferrules that are about an inch long with all kinds of chrome rings on it. And I thought, oh my gosh, here we go. I'm going to ruin these things quickly. And it just didn't. It just did not. So it was really good, right? I finished them off around the ferrule and then went out and smoothed them up at the top, and then we made them shiny, and it made the club look really, really cool. So if you're looking for something like that, I think they're called B&F Company, and that you can get through that. All righty. So let's look a little bit here. Yep, we did that one, Matt. Mr. Stump, I saw you got the 7-iron. Hopefully you got a chance to hit it a little bit. Dave's in from Michigan. And you like the TS ones. Now, here you go. So do they feel soft like they look like they're going to be? Because they are supposed to be a forged product. Let me know. And then we have Michigan. All righty, so here we go. How do you reconcile flex, shaft weight, swing weight, counterbalancing, etc. with someone who's never been fitted before? Well, that's really, okay, so all of this that's part of the fitting process, right? That's this is how you get fit process. When you get through the, okay, I got an email. You find the right lengths, the right lies, the right to get started, because you have to have a mechanical starting point, in my opinion. And length is pretty much the standard. It works no matter what with weight and flex and anything, because length is, just like swinging a baseball bat. When you swing a bat, a certain length just works regardless of everything else. So we get to that part of it. Then we do line. We'll just stay within the irons because of all the questions. And Then we do the lie angle, making sure turf interaction is correct. Now, what we also do is we take video of the swing, and then we get to see some of the mechanics. And the mechanics of the swing, of whether or not it's transitioning or releasing when they get to the when they go through there. And based on how smooth or how violent the person can be, is would help us with flex and or weight. Okay. And then that way, and then you start getting those ideas and principles into effect. And then you ask what's been going on with the golfer and what they like and that kind of stuff. And then you start putting together clubs that you think would work. And what I do is it's a three bears concept, where there's a baby bear, a mama bear, a papa bear, and you might start off a little lighter and then start at something that's very heavy, right? And then kind of bring it back and see what it finds out. Now, I don't mean, when I say this kind of stuff, people think into the extreme. I don't mean that, give them a ladies flex and then give them something that's 2X and then give them something that's in the middle that you actually thought was going to work at the process. I'm talking like, all right, swing speeds, all the things that they're doing in their swing. We're going to move this way a little bit. We're going to move this way a little bit, and then kind of hunt in that particular area. It's very, very narrow at that particular point. Now, counterbalancing is a bit of a different animal. All right, and we've been doing it here a little bit lately. We saw it, it's getting big in the shafts. The Nemesis from VA, Acra's got one in the TZ line. Even Riptide's got one, and it's a counterbalance. Now, there's two really large schools of thought. One is that means that you can make a longer club and not have the swing weight be so ridiculously heavy. Okay, but if you're making a standard length club, then it's going to be light. So then you have to add all this weight. Well, why? Right? Why? And then in order, you have to add extra weight. Well, some people say, well, there's more mass behind the ball. It's going to make it go further. If you can't hit the center of the club, then it doesn't make a difference. Some will say, personally, I like it. It's for people who have to have weight in their hands when they're swinging, and they find that club here, not with the stuff that's out here. That tends to work out pretty good. And then there's some of those things that you can do that. So basically, the bottom line is it's through the fitting process. Jason, we're going to have to get Mrs. McGolf on that one. So she's listening in the other room. So we're going to make her get us some caps. However, I will say this: we have ordered the club glove towels. If you guys, and I'll show you, man, we should have them here maybe by the next podcast. Who knows? They're the tour towels. They're very large. Then they have the slot in the middle that hangs over a golf club. And what you see on the tour is they'll dip one side of it, squeeze it out, so they have something wet, and the other side is dry, so they can wipe it off with the wet side, dry it off with the dry side, and they put it back in the bag. It's a square pattern microfiber towel, and they'll have the McGolf logo embroidered on it, and they look really cool. So I got 6 colors, I think. I got a handful of just the basic colors, and the blacks, the grays, some whites, some reds with gray, and then I got a couple extras just to see what they would do. There's a camo one, and then there's a pink one for the ladies. So that's that one, and we're looking at that. And then I just received those. I received a small shipment of those, so now we have those as well. And we're looking at one more logoed item to carry in the shop, but for right now, that's what we're doing. So thank you for the question. Dave's got the pin glides, and they are really good. All right, I'm trying to get up there. Are Wasan wedges forged? No, they're not, Matt. Again, they use a very, very soft metal in order to feel soft, and that's what they're doing. Now, again, in groove patterns, that's another thing. There's 2 different schools of thought in the groove patterns. Either you have a lot of them and they're shallow, or you have a few of them and they're deep. Now, the idea of a groove is just to remove the debris. It's what's in between the groove that really will help you get a little more spin on the ball. So keep that one. Do you build grips at the bottom end? Trying to think what you mean, Andy. If you mean that, so if we look at, let's look at this. Let's pick one up. So if we look at, if this is the back end and that's the front end, all right, this is the opening and this is the butt, then can you build up grips at this end? Absolutely. Can you build up grips at this end? Absolutely. Can you build them all the way across? Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, Bubba Watson is probably the key of where he has some ridiculous amount down here, and then the word is out is like 12 wraps or something. It's just crazy, and then like 8 wraps back here. I feel sorry for the guy building his clubs, but again, what you're seeing is where the trend here as of late is that the bottom hand is being built, and that bottom hand is thicker. And so what they're doing is they're just producing grips that are just naturally thicker at the bottom. So the answer to that is yes. Now, you might, if you get it to where they're too big, you might use what's called a big butt grip installer. And it's a plastic gizmo that you slide the grip on this end, and then it's a cup, and it slides over the shaft, sort of like that, and then it slides everything on. And then that way you can get that in there. All right. Can you make one link set out of any irons? No. No, 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 no. Now, the answer is no if you want to make them any good. Okay. The one length is dependent on the fact that the heads weigh the same. And they don't weigh the same in standard lengths by a factor of 7 grams apiece. So, for instance, you like they build to the 7 or 8 iron in the set. So you do the math, you're adding 20 plus grams. And if a piece of lead tape is about this long, is about worth a couple of swing plates. So you're looking at 7 to 10 strips of those tape. And that doesn't include and that's on the back. And placement becomes an issue. You're moving the way that the thing works around. It's just not a pretty sight. You're just better off going with the regular ones that are made for it. And they're, Washawn's got them, and he's got a new set out now. Cobra's got them. If you really, really want to go a forged top end kind of thing, Idol's got a set of them. So yeah. And that's what it goes for. Dave, if you want, we can give you the whole thing of what we go through. Just send me an email. Are the Project X Catalyst 70 6.0 just hybrid shafts, or can you put them in irons? Well, they don't say hybrid shaft on them. They were probably placed in there for their weight. And they are a 370 tip, so yeah, I don't see why you couldn't put them in an iron. It's kind of funny that I still haven't got into that way of thinking yet, in that that I look at them more from an iron perspective, and then see whether or not they work in hybrids, not the other way around. Stump, can I use a counterbalance shaft to be able to get more weight in the head but still have a normal swing weight? Yeah, well, I just said that. So yeah, thanks for leading me in. You're the perfect straight man. So yeah, you can. Why? That's a different question. All right. Look at this. South Mountain, Ontario. Thanks for. Dang. There we go. Ontario. Woo. We have them all over the place. All right. There we go. So what do you think, guys? Anything else? So what we're seeing. So tell me what you think on Tell me what you think. You know, you've seen that they started golfing without crowds. Yeah, right. Golfing without crowds. I don't even know if that's, you know, from a viewing standpoint, I don't see it being anything different, but particularly from TV land. But from a business point of view, can you imagine an insurance company that's thrown out millions of dollars to sponsor this thing, has paid millions of dollars to sponsor it, and you know normally the tournaments make money off of selling tchotchkes and entry fees and things like that, and you just don't get it. So it's pretty impressive.
Over here when you're ready in the morning, all right?
What time?
Really?
Ready?
What time is it?
Do you sell individual clubs at the shop? If so, I'm looking for tailor-made.
I'm answering you.
I am too.
Go ahead.
We don't sell tailor-made in the shop, so the answer to that directly is no. Do we sell individual clubs? Answer is yes.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Great. You want to sit here and tell them too?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. All righty. Let's go back. Yes, it will. It will be incredibly well. All of them will be, right? It just seems, you know, a lot of sports people in general tend to interact very, 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 very well with the fans, and they feed off of that type of energy. And for some reason, you know, I just don't. You know, it's like Zen golfing. You're going to be out there almost playing by yourself or with just your buddies to go play. So I just don't know. I don't know if I can see that or not. So, coming forward, we'll talk about what's going forward in there. Is that there's a video coming out tomorrow on a repair I did, which was pretty amazing. And it's what you have to do is, you know, the DDD, that's the doors opening and closing in the shop as they're walking by. Anyway, the repair I did was, I'll just say it was this thing that was done to this golf club was awful, and we had to fix it. And I take you through on how we had to fix it. So that's a good thing. And then we've got I got another one coming down there about installing those the grips that we were just talking about. I've got one out there for that towards the end of the week. So we'll have that. And then we've got some Wilson reviews that are coming because we've talked with Mr. Pergande about some of the designs. So we'll be talking about that. So there's a lot of that coming. If you guys have something that you're wanting to see, then send them over because we're always looking to make more and better content. Here we go. What's the difference between the OptiFit and 2 and 3 adapters? Well, the reality is the 3 will fit into the 2, but the 2 will not fit into the 3. That's the difference. And it's at the bottom. There's a bit of a different flange at the bottom, but essentially the cogs are the same. Here we go. I saw a crazy automated shaft flowing machine video. It surely doesn't know what you do. So there's 2 of them out there. The one is called, what you're seeing is puring, which was the puring is done by the pure machine. It grabs it on the end, and the shaft goes out, and on the other end, it does all these calculations. The other one is used by Acra and Cool Clubs. It's called the S3 machine, and it's more of an analyzing and to make sure all the parameters are in the area, and it takes into account a lot of different things. Now, in comparison to what I do, you know, the spine and flow is what I call, you know, it's the analog version of what a digital machine will do. Now, the computer, I will say, is much, much more precise. Okay, it's much more precise because it can see very, very small changes where we may not be able to see it with the naked eye. However, the bottom line is that it's still got to be put into the club. Okay, it's still got to be put in the club. So, and the pure guys, they believe the 12 o'clock position like I do. So you still have to install the club and the head in the right fashion, and that's where flowing comes in. Because if you are off a little bit, it will oscillate on you, and that's the final part of it. So can you mess up? Yeah, but can you make it right? Yeah, but you have to make sure that they're in line, and I would use the laser to make sure they're in line. No, it's not. It's something that's analyzing the shaft and allowing you to put it in there the best way possible. 3 main items you need to start a small business shop for a hobby, tools wise. That's a pretty good question. So when you want to do this, you got to think of what it is that you want to do, right? You're going to have to sit down and go, do I want to repair clubs or do I want to build clubs? And that's because it sounds like, well, it's in the same vein, and to a point. However, when you want to build clubs, that means you have to be able to take them apart. And taking them apart actually requires like a shaft puller, right? And although steel shafts, yeah, you can get away with some of that, but most of the stuff we're playing with now is in steel. So a shaft puller becomes very, very important. But if you're just building clubs, you don't necessarily need that. So that's one thing to consider is the job functions you're going to need. If space is a consideration, the very first thing I would get is a solid bench, right? You want in any case whatsoever, you need a solid bench. And then we'll put on top of that is a solid vise. Don't need one big road runner coming out of the sky kind of vise or anvil or any of that kind of stuff. Just I need a good solid vise, a good 6-inch vise. And that's where you can put everything that you're working with on that vise if space is at a premium. If space is not a premium, then you can bolt stuff down and have a day. And then from there, personally, I would be looking at sanders to prep. And again, if time is not an option, maybe sander's not it. If you're looking to be very, very meticulous, then maybe a frequency machine to check flex. You might look at a swing weight scale so you can do more measuring, right? Because you can always hand sand, right? You can always hand polish. And then once you decide that time is of the essence, then you can get into motorized stuff. So measuring stuff. All right. Andy, what do you think of the current crop of UDI 2-iron driving iron? I don't get too much call for that, Andy. Up here, I don't get a lot of call for the driving iron because I live in a mountainous area, and the mountains don't lean themselves to allowing for a driving iron. I've only had it's still under one handful worth of that stuff in order to come through here. If you're talking about utilitarian type stuff, the hybrid is so much easier to hit, and most average golfers are doing that. It takes a bit of a skill to hit a driving iron. But the ones that I have seen, actually, we've had a couple come through here for repair, but they've all been unique ones, right? And some older ones like Sonar Tech stuff, and it's just been really kind of unique. But I really don't think I have a favorite at this point. Doug, if you go to Columbus and come down 60 miles straight down on 23, you'll run right into Waverly, and that's us. If you're in Cincinnati area and you come over about 85 miles to the east on 35, or 32, and you'll hit right into us as well. Here we go. Do you know if it's possible to bend the lofts on Titleist T200s? Yeah. So as a whole, forged clubs are the easiest bend because of their softest metal. Traditionally, forged can go 4 degrees, where cast clubs can go 2. And again, that could be also based on the softness of the metal. You might be able to eke out a little bit more. I would not recommend it, but 2 is pretty much what you're going to get out of it. Now, that said, you're talking about Tylus, so sure. Ping is notoriously hard metals. And if you get 1.5 degrees out of those guys, you are call it a win. I mean, call it a win. So that's what I would look at. All right. What is the total weight of a 7-iron with a grip to give you a swing weight of D2? Dude. Well, what's the shaft weight and the grip weight? So, all right. So let's go over that. Swing weight is a measure on a scale, much like a teeter-totter, and where you get 2 people doing like this, and it depends on where that balance point is to maybe you could put an infant on one side and somebody that weighs a lot of weight on the other, and they would equal out. And it depends on where that balance point is at. Now, on a swing weight scale, the fulcrum is somewhere in that, I'm going to say it's in that, was it like 11-inch range? Maybe even further out. And so it's a trick on what you want to do. So if you went with a 7 that weighs, let's see, 256, 263, 270 on the head, and then you had another standard shaft at 120, so there you add that, and then you have a grip at, say, 48, 49 grams, and then you add maybe a couple more for the ferrule and the glue and the tape, and then there would be your total weight. So, add all that together, and there you are. Now, as far as and that probably would be very close to D2, because that's what they're making the standards in. All right. Pink eye blades, they feel light. I notice a removal. Let's see what we got here. All right. They have a red light in the head of the plug. Okay. So they have the Ping i500s have a red place in there so you can add weight. Okay. I imagine if you're asking me that they feel light and can you add into this, I'd have to see it. I'm not real familiar with the i500, the blade. If they have something at the toe end, which mostly those blades have, and they have like a little screw port or something that's shaved off at the toe end, maybe you got to make sure that it's not filled with that speed foam or the goo or whatever. If it's not, then yeah, you should be able to. And I would use the stuff where you have a needle and you put it in there and you squirt across the bottom. That way you can make sure that it stays in the bottom or towards the back end, so you get a better ball flight, because it will impact the sound as well when you go to do that. Andy's in the UK. Very cool, buddy. Yeah. So again, and what we've done in the past, we're coming to the realization of is golfers tend to gravitate towards one or the other, whether they're fairway woods or whether they're hybrids. And if you find yourself to be more of an iron player, then yeah, check out a hybrid and see if it doesn't work a little bit better. Now, hybrids are starting to creep up and get a little long for the chasing distance theory. And so if you find out, don't be afraid to choke down on them a little bit too. And that kind of help you flight the ball, because, in the UK, you want to keep it down a little bit because of all that wind and the way that the ball flies. It certainly does fly differently, and in order to get that placement golf. And then that way, when you have extra there, you can swing away and maybe get it up in the air somewhat. But yeah, now the other thing is out there, I know you got the Apex 3 and the 4, which I completely dig. I'm carrying 3 of them myself. The when people say, well, they start you at the 5-iron, they go down, they say, oh yeah, you need the 3 and the 4. That's not necessarily true. You might need the 2 and the 4 in order to fill up your bag, in order to have a space, in order to get through there. And so that's something that you need to take along. Truck drove by, and she's just barking to be barking. So keep that in mind. LL shafts, as in ladies light or whatever, those, the very more flexible ones. I have to tell you right now, some of my favorite shafts are coming from Acra, right? And that's because of the family of shafts that they offer, that they go through an entire line. And they have 3 lineups. You know, they have the I series, which is basically the one that I use a lot of, and that has a lot to do with cost. And then the next one, which I think is probably their best bang for their buck, is the FX line. And then they have the TZ series, which is stuff you see on tour. And they do have guys on tour using it. But they just this wide gambit of stuff. So yeah, that, you know, I like them. Now for stuff that everybody can get, you know, the UST group does a pretty good job. True Tempers, which is now the Project X, or True Sports. Look up the True Sports stuff, and they have quite the variety as well. Here we go. Can you talk a little bit about iron angle of attack versus sole design? Fit, not wedges. So angle of attack. So the steeper angle of attack sometimes gets confused with pinching of the golf ball. You like seeing it because if you're coming down heavy, you know, the average angle of attack is around 3-ish, right? And that give or take a few, and depending on the person, but that's it. Now, if that same person is running around 6 or 7, that becomes problematic, right? And those are the guys that are taking divots that are very, very large. And sometimes we like that, sometimes we don't. You know, during the soft seasons, which would be spring and fall, chances are that's not real happy because you're not getting everything out of the ball. Summertime, it's bouncing you out because the dirt is really, really hard. But as a whole, I would look at for heavy steeping diggers, I would look at wider sole designs. And the idea is the wider sole design is to bounce you straight out and get you more clean contact, where the narrow is some guy that could be a more of a sweeper type thing, right? You could do something like that. You know, you get a little bit more narrow, just like you know, we'll use Mizuno as a reference, where they have the MP20 line, very, very narrow, is more of the guy that's clipping small amounts of sole or small amounts of divots, where maybe they're JPX in the hot metal, where it's much wider, is for the guy that takes a lot. So that's where they're going.
Yeah, his dad's having surgery.
Todd, I dig links courses, man. I mean, I like golf in general, of course, but I like links courts overall because it really, really challenges you. And if you get into the junk, it's extraordinarily penal. Now around here, we're in the middle of the mountains. It's very wooded. So when you get into the trees, you've got to be careful. Number one, you don't want to get too deep, otherwise you run into snakes. And that's just not happening here. But the other side of it is that you want, you know, is being able to shoot out and through trees. So it becomes a different kind of a shot. When you're in link style, when you're in heather and that kind of stuff, that's a different kind of play. And but I dig it. The short courses, you know, they have their places as well, especially if you want to just go out and have kind of what I call a Zen concept in playing golf, where you just want to work on something. I want to hit these irons. I want to get friendly with them and get up there. But you know, if I had my druthers, I'd go and play there. And I've had the opportunity. I've been blessed with the idea of being able to go over to Ireland and Scotland and play, and it's a different game over there. And and it's fun to enjoy, and just the deal with those folks. But yeah, it's but if I had my druthers, I would go with that, and then with a standard regular course. All right. Yes, we do. Apparently, you saw another dog outside. All right. Ricardo. All right. The difference between the two is primarily offset. The width of the sole is a little narrower, and in the pro model, and the offset is a little bit well, it's a little bit less, and the loft is just a hair weaker, but not by a lot. It's like 1 degree. I'd show you, but it's in the other room right over there. And what they've done is they've disguised the sole width by making if you would, please. And what they've done is they disguised sole width in making the bottom satin finish, and then where they wanted to hide it, they made it chrome, and almost makes it look disappeared. But the shape is very similar. The lofts are very similar. What it comes right down to is the offset and the sole width. And this will do it. So if you look, this is the Hot Metal Pro, and then this is just the Hot Metal. And if you look at the two, here we go. Trying to keep it. There we go. So if you notice, the Dark 6, this guy, is a little bit wider. And if you look up in this neck of the woods, this has a little bit more offset than the Pro model. Outside of that, the Pro also has a slightly thinner top line. Let's see if I can get you here. There's the Pro model here. Slightly thinner top line. But I'm telling you, we're having pretty good results with them. So yeah, they do pretty good. Okay. Yeah, Ohio mountains, right? We're down at the bottom of the Appalachian Mountains. And there's a lot when you talk about being in the hills. Right, where I tell people, I get asked where I live when I go out to meetings and whatnot. They say, where you live, and I tell them, go find the banjo music, and then go find another 20 miles, and that's me. All right, Kevin McMichael. Shaft link was fitted to 2 inches, so I was fitted to plus 2 inches, so I can buy 1 length irons and have the shafts plus 2 inches. Let me think about that. I would say yes. It depends. Yeah, if you were fit and your standard club is 2 inches, you were found to be 2 inches longer than average, then you would want to take your whatever the 1 length is, because it's either going to be an 8 iron or a 7 iron length, and have it 2 inches longer. Yeah, it should fit. I would think, yeah. I'd be cool with that. Here we go. Let me get bias here. All right.
No, I think you're in turn.
Man, we look at that. With 8 minutes to spare.
How close are we? Hour and a half? I should know that. I just drove it.
Closer. Where'd you ask that at?
Down at the bottom, Doug.
Doug. I don't see Doug.
Doug Dowdy. Way at the bottom. Last question.
All I got is Kevin. Oh, there he goes. Doug, going to Club Builder. That is very cool, man. I recommend that highly. How close are you? Hour and 45 minutes? Hour and no, we're not even that far. We're like
It's hour 35. I just drove it.
Yeah, hour and a half. There you go. And yeah, so the Club Builder School is pretty much the only one left standing. Jim Yananich and the clan, they do an excellent job. You will learn a ton, and they give you a lot of stuff, and you learn a lot of stuff, to be sure. It's very, very, it's a lot. Get ready, because you're going to be drinking from a fire hose. They do quite a bit, and depending on which one, right? Because they have the club. I took the club fitting and repair school. I don't even know if they even offer that anymore. And I took their master's class, which they offered only for a short period of time. And then that was the end of that. And so now they're into these shaft fittings. The one that gets me is the shaft technology. I'm kind of really interested in that one. But yeah, the guys are great. And then Britt comes down and visits. And in one of the more involved ones, I think the week-long schools, you get to go see Ralph's area. And you get to go see Ralph's, you go visit his property, and you get to go see where he does all his engineering stuff. And it's pretty impressive, I have to admit, when you go by, because the dude did, if the guy got interested in something, he jumped in, got it, took it to the top. And he's into race cars, so you see probably one of the privately owned dynamometers for engines. I think I said that right. And he's also got an ultralight that he flies, and he's also carrying a pilot's license. The dude's just out of control when it does that. So it's good. Well, let's go here. Rob, yeah, we talked about wedges, dude. Yes, I do. I watch TXG on YouTube. I've met Sean and I've met Matt. Matt's, it's funny, and they are basically just like they are when you see them on there. Ian is the talking head for the two of them. He's very much the vocal of the two, and Matt is very quiet. And it's just as they show him, Matt hits the ball a ton. It's crazy to watch him swing and get all that power out of it. It's very neat. They're a good bunch of guys. They got another guy that's helping them film now, and they're really taking it. If you watch, they're taking it to another level with they're putting out a truckload of content all of a sudden. So that you'll see them get noticed here quite rapidly. I'd like to have their backing in order to be able to do the same thing. But they do an excellent job. Man, and we agree on a lot of things as far as fitting concepts and what we do. It's just that they're in the Toronto area and they're serving a class of people much more akin to the cool clubs and the club champion types, where pretty deep wallet kind of thing. But they're as nice as the day is long. They really are. That's the one, dude. Mine was 5-day, but yeah, that one you're going to learn a truckload. Get ready. Here we go. 15-year-old son started golf left-handed. Way to go, lefties. Was looking at old King Cobra irons. Are they forgiving enough? Well, yeah, if we're getting started. So, what I do at that particular age, they're fighting between, they're fighting between Game Boys and Netflix and getting ready to chase girls and things like that. And, the funny part is I started out with the King Cobra IQ2 irons when I first started golfing when I was in my 30s. And, it's a good starting club. I mean, if you just want to see if they're going to show interest into it, and typically you don't have a lot of money involved into it just to see if the interest is going to grow. Now, you don't want to have them too ill-fitted, because if they're really, really bad and it doesn't allow them to perform, they're going to lose interest. So you might want to have some, depending on the height and the strength and all that kind of stuff, at least get them into the right parameter and then let them hit them around with you. I mean, and then let them enjoy it and have a lot of fun. What I did with mine is I bet my son a hot dog and a Coke on 4 holes. We would do stroke play, and then we would do average score in order to make it competitive. And man, I'm telling you what, you would have thought we were playing for Fort Knox. So it was pretty good. So that's where we're at. So we got pretty close. So guys, we're getting close to the hour, we're almost right on top of it. And I wanted to keep it down to the hour. So hopefully we learned a little bit about wedges and how they work, or at least some of the faves. And we talked about some other fittings. If you would, when you get on here, throw down some topics you might want to talk about in the next one. We will certainly do it next Monday at the same time frame, and until we're totally out of this COVID, if you guys want to just keep talking golf, I mean, we can do that. And I'll see about maybe we can get a couple extra. Maybe I can get a visitor on here, and we can talk even more golf. So, just throw it down there and see what you think, and let me know, and we can try and bring that up, and we'll talk about more about those builds, because that 7-footer build, I got the shafts in. We're just waiting on the head, so that'll be interesting to see, and maybe some results from that girl that got her new irons, and we'll just see what's at. Oh, and I got a new machine, right? I got a new machine, but I'm waiting for the last bit of the part to show. So that would be maybe we'll talk about that as well. So again, guys, as usual, thank you guys for dropping in. I appreciate it. Looks like we had a lot of people again from all over the planet. And keep safe, and let's see your scores go low.